Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever spent an entire night tossing and turning, your mind racing with worries about the future? Maybe you're facing financial troubles, health concerns, or uncertainties about your career. The truth is, life is full of challenges, but worrying about them does nothing to change them. Instead, it only steals our peace and joy. But here's the good news. You don't have to carry that burden alone. God will solve it. So the next time worry creeps into your heart, stop and remind yourself, God has never failed, and he won't start now. Instead of carrying the weight of your problems, hand them over to him. Replace your worry with worship, your fear with faith, and your stress with surrender. When you trust in God's plan, you'll discover a peace that no storm can shake. Do not worry, God will solve it. Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't take you anywhere. It creates stress, anxiety, and even physical illness. Yet it never brings solutions. The more we worry, the more we magnify our problems instead of trusting the one who holds the solution. God never intended for us to live in fear. He calls us to live in faith. Worry is one of the most common struggles in human life. It is something that affects everyone at some point, regardless of their background, beliefs, or circumstances. People worry about their health, their finances, their families, their jobs, and countless other things. Worry comes from uncertainty, from not knowing how things will turn out or whether we will be able to handle the challenges ahead. But worrying does not change anything. It does not fix problems, it does not bring solutions, and it does not improve our circumstances. Instead, it drains our energy, steals our peace, and keeps us trapped in a cycle of anxiety. The more we worry, the more we feel overwhelmed, and the less we are able to think clearly or make wise decisions. Worry is like running on a treadmill. It keeps us busy, but we go nowhere. One of the biggest problems with worrying is that it often exaggerates our difficulties. When we worry, we tend to focus on the worst possible outcomes. Our minds create scenarios that may never happen, and we allow fear to take over. A small problem can feel like an enormous crisis when we dwell on it too much. This leads to unnecessary stress and can even have a negative impact on our physical health. Studies have shown that excessive worry can lead to high blood pressure, digestive issues, weakened immune systems, and even heart disease. It affects our sleep, our mood, and our ability to enjoy life. The truth is, worrying does not just waste our time, it harms us. Another issue with worry is that it keeps us from trusting in God. Worry is often a sign that we are trying to control things that are beyond our control. We feel responsible for finding solutions, making everything work, and ensuring that nothing goes wrong. But the reality is that there are many things in life that we simply cannot control. No amount of worrying will change the future. No amount of worrying will guarantee success, prevent illness, or make problems disappear. When we worry, we are essentially saying that we do not trust God to take care of us. We are focusing on our own limitations instead of God's unlimited power. God never intended for us to live in a constant state of fear and anxiety. He has given us promises that remind us that He is in control, that He loves us, and that He will provide for our needs. But worry distracts us from those promises. It makes us forget who God is and what He has done for us in the past. Instead of remembering His faithfulness, we focus on our fears. Instead of resting in His peace, we allow stress to take over. This is why it is so important to recognize worry for what it is, an unnecessary burden that God never asked us to carry. Worry is also a thief. It steals our joy, our peace, and our ability to enjoy the present moment. How many times have we missed out on happiness because we were too busy worrying about something that might happen? How often do we let fear of the future rob us of the blessings that are right in front of us? When we worry, we are not really living, we are just surviving. We are constantly caught up in what-if scenarios instead of trusting that God already has a plan. Life is meant to be lived with faith, not fear. The good news is that we do not have to live under the weight of worry. God has given us an alternative. He invites us to let go of our anxieties and place our trust in Him. This does not mean that we ignore our responsibilities or pretend that problems do not exist. It simply means that we recognize that worrying will not fix anything, and we choose to trust that God is working behind the scenes. When we shift our focus from our fears to our faith, we begin to experience true peace. Worry may try to creep in, but when we remember that God is in control, we can choose to let it go. Think about this. When a child faces a problem, They don't sit in fear, analyzing all the possible outcomes. Instead, they run to their parents for help. In the same way, we have a Heavenly Father who is always ready to provide, protect, and guide us. He sees what we cannot see, and His wisdom is far greater than ours. When we place our trust in Him, we step into His plan, which is always better than our own. God is in control, even when life feels uncertain and unpredictable. Many times people feel overwhelmed because they believe everything depends on them. They think that if they do not work hard enough, plan well enough, or make the right choices, everything will fall apart. This mindset creates stress and anxiety because it places the weight of the world on human shoulders. But the truth is, there is only so much that people can control. No matter how much effort they put in, there will always be circumstances beyond their power. This is why understanding that God is in control is so important. It is not just a comforting thought. It is a reality that brings peace. When people recognize that they are not alone in their struggles, they can release the burden of trying to control everything and instead trust that God has a plan. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns. Sometimes things do not go the way people hope. A job opportunity falls through, a relationship ends, a financial crisis hits, or a health issue arises. In those moments, it is easy to feel like everything is spinning out of control. But from God's perspective, nothing is ever out of control. He sees the beginning and the end of every situation. What may seem like a failure or a setback in the present could actually be a step towards something greater. When people look back on their lives, they often realize that some of their biggest disappointments led to unexpected blessings. What seemed like a closed door was actually a redirection towards something better. This is because God is always at work, even when it is not immediately visible. One of the reasons people struggle with believing that God is in control is because they want immediate answers. When facing a difficult situation, the natural desire is to find a solution right away. But God's timing is not the same as human timing. He often works in ways that are beyond human understanding. A delay does not mean that God has forgotten or that He's not listening. It simply means that He is working things out in the best way possible. Just like a skilled artist takes time to create a masterpiece, God is shaping lives in ways that may not be visible in the moment. Trusting in His control means accepting that He knows what is best, even when things do not make sense. Fear often arises when people focus on what they cannot control. They worry about the future, about what might happen, and about how things will turn out. But worry does not change anything. It only creates stress and takes away peace. When people shift their focus from their fears to their faith in God, their perspective changes. Instead of feeling anxious about the unknown, they can rest in the knowledge that God already knows the outcome. He is not surprised by anything that happens. He is not overwhelmed by any situation. He is always in control, guiding and directing according to His wisdom. Throughout history, there are countless examples of how God has worked in ways that seemed impossible. Stories of people who faced challenges far greater than their abilities, yet saw incredible outcomes because they trusted in God's control. The same is true today. No matter how big a problem may seem, it is never bigger than God. He is not limited by circumstances, by resources, or by human understanding. What seems impossible to people is possible for Him. This is why faith is so important. It is the key to experiencing peace in the midst of uncertainty. Letting go of control does not mean being passive or ignoring responsibilities. It simply means acknowledging that there are limits to what people can do and trusting that God will handle the rest. When people truly believe that He is in control, they stop feeling the need to constantly worry about the future. They stop trying to force solutions and instead allow God to lead the way. This shift in mindset brings a sense of calm and assurance. Instead of living in fear, they begin to live in faith, knowing that no matter what happens, God's plan is always greater than their own. Faith is the opposite of fear. The more we trust God, the less room there is for worry. The moment we release our concerns to Him in prayer, something powerful happens. Peace replaces anxiety. We might not see the solution right away, but God is already at work behind the scenes. He knows the perfect timing and the perfect way to answer. Faith is the foundation of a life free from worry. It is not just a feeling or an idea. It is a deep trust that God is working in every situation, even when things seem uncertain. Faith is what allows people to let go of fear and replace it with confidence in God's promises. When worry tries to take over, faith steps in as a reminder that God is greater than any problem, any setback, or any unknown future. Without faith, people rely only on their own strength, which often leads to exhaustion and anxiety. But when faith takes over, there is a shift in perspective. Problems do not disappear instantly, but they lose their power to create fear. Instead of focusing on the problem, faith allows people to focus on the one who has the power to solve it. Faith is not about ignoring reality. It does not mean pretending that challenges do not exist. Instead, faith acknowledges that while problems are real, God's power is even more real. It is a choice to believe that He is working even when the outcome is unclear. Many people struggle with faith because they want to see results immediately. They want proof that everything will work out before they fully trust God. But faith does not work that way. It requires believing before seeing. It means trusting that even when things look impossible, God is still in control. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life come when people choose to trust God even when their circumstances say otherwise. Fear and faith cannot exist in the same space. When fear takes over, it weakens faith. It causes doubt and makes problems seem bigger than they really are. But when faith is strong, it pushes out fear. It reminds people that God has never failed before and that He will not fail now. Faith looks back at past experiences and remembers how God has provided, protected, and guided. It brings to mind the times when things seemed hopeless, but solutions appeared at the right moment. Remembering these moments strengthens faith and gives the courage to trust God again. Faith also brings peace. Worry creates stress, but faith creates calmness. When people truly believe that God is handling their situation, they no longer feel the need to control everything. They do their part, but they do not carry unnecessary burdens. This peace does not come from having all the answers, but from knowing that God has the answers. It is a peace that does not depend on circumstances. Even in the middle of chaos, faith allows people to remain steady because they know they are not alone. This kind of peace is powerful because it changes how people respond to challenges. Instead of reacting with panic, they respond with trust. Faith grows through experience. The more people trust God and see Him work, the stronger their faith becomes. It is like a muscle that needs to be exercised. Small steps of faith lead to greater confidence. Over time, trust in God becomes a natural response instead of an effort. But faith also requires action. It is not just a belief in the mind. It is a decision to live in a way that reflects that trust. This means making choices based on faith rather than fear. It means stepping out even when the path is not fully clear. It means believing that even if things do not go as planned, God is still working for good. Faith also brings clarity. Worry clouds the mind and makes it difficult to think clearly. It creates confusion and makes problems seem more complicated than they actually are. But faith brings focus. It helps people see situations through God's perspective instead of through fear. It reminds them that every challenge is an opportunity to grow, to trust more deeply, and to witness God's power in action. Instead of seeing obstacles, faith allows people to see possibilities. Instead of feeling defeated, they feel empowered because they know they are not facing problems alone. Faith is the key that unlocks freedom from worry and opens the door to a life of peace, confidence, and trust in God's perfect plan. Prayer is a powerful tool that connects people to God, providing comfort, guidance, and strength in difficult times. It is not just a ritual or a habit. It is an open conversation with God where worries are released and trust is deepened. When people pray, they shift their focus from their problems to God's power, reminding themselves that they are not alone in their struggles. Prayer is not about using the right words or following a specific formula. It is about being honest with God, bringing every concern before Him and trusting that He hears and answers. Some may feel that their prayers are not effective or that they do not know how to pray, but the most important thing is to speak from the heart. Even when words fail, God understands every sigh, every tear, and every unspoken worry. One of the greatest benefits of prayer is that it brings peace. Anxiety and stress thrive in uncertainty, but prayer brings assurance that God is in control. When people pray, they hand over their burdens, choosing faith over fear. It does not mean that problems disappear immediately, but it does mean that they no longer carry them alone. Prayer is an act of surrender, a way of saying, God, I trust you with this. The moment that trust is placed in Him, worry begins to lose its power. Many times the situations that cause the most stress are the ones that people try to control themselves. But through prayer, they acknowledge that some things are beyond their ability and need God's intervention. Prayer also brings clarity. When overwhelmed by problems, it is easy to become confused and unsure of what to do next. Thoughts race, emotions take over, and decisions become difficult. But when people take time to pray, their minds become clearer. God provides wisdom and insight that they might not have seen on their own. He directs steps, opens doors, and closes others for a purpose. Many people struggle with making the right decisions because they rely only on their own understanding. But when prayer is a regular part of life, decisions are no longer based on fear or confusion, but on divine guidance. Another incredible power of prayer is that it strengthens faith. When people see their prayers answered, their trust in God grows. They begin to recognize His hand in every situation, even in ways they did not expect. Sometimes the answers to prayers come in the form of miracles. Other times they come as small changes that lead to greater things. And in some cases, prayers are answered differently than expected, teaching patience and deeper trust. But in every situation, prayer builds confidence that God is always working behind the scenes. Faith is like a muscle. It grows stronger with use. The more people pray and see God move, the more naturally they turn to Him in every situation. Prayer also changes perspective. Instead of focusing on problems, it shifts the mind toward gratitude. It reminds people of what God has already done in their lives and encourages them to trust that He will continue to provide. Gratitude in prayer is powerful because it reinforces faith. When people remember past blessings, they gain confidence that God will continue to take care of them. This mindset helps combat worry, replacing it with assurance that they are never forgotten or abandoned. Instead of dwelling on what is wrong, they begin to see what is right, even in the midst of difficulties. Prayer is also a source of strength. Life's challenges can feel exhausting, leaving people drained physically, emotionally, and spiritually. But prayer renews strength in a way that nothing else can. It provides a sense of calm in the storm and fills the heart with hope. People who pray regularly often experience a deeper sense of resilience, knowing that they are supported by a higher power. This strength is not just emotional, it is real, enabling them to endure challenges with confidence. One of the most beautiful aspects of prayer is that it is always available. No matter where a person is or what they're facing, they can pray. There is no need for a specific place, time, or set of conditions. Whether in moments of joy, sorrow, confusion, or gratitude, prayer is always an option. It is a direct line to God, always open, always welcoming. This accessibility means that no one has to face life's struggles alone. The power of prayer is not just in the words spoken, but in the trust placed in God. It is an invitation to release burdens, receive peace, gain wisdom, and strengthen faith, knowing that every prayer is heard and answered in the perfect way and at the perfect time. In life, worry often feels inevitable, but it does not have to control us. Trusting that God will solve every challenge allows us to live with peace rather than fear. Instead of being consumed by uncertainty, we can find confidence in His perfect timing and power. Understanding that problems are temporary and that God's wisdom far exceeds our own helps us shift our focus from anxiety to faith. When we embrace patience, we stop rushing for immediate solutions and start recognizing that delays are often part of God's greater plan. Faith then becomes the foundation that strengthens us, allowing us to face every difficulty with assurance. And through prayer, we not only release our burdens, but also receive clarity, strength, and divine guidance. No matter what struggles come your way, remember that you are never alone. God is always working, even when the answers are not yet visible. If you choose to trust, wait, believe, and pray, you will experience His peace in ways beyond understanding. May you walk forward with confidence, knowing that God is in control and that every worry has a solution in His hands. Good luck on your journey of faith, and may your heart be filled with peace. Thank you for your time, and may God bless you abundantly.